I'm Monica Cesarato, a food and travel blogger in Venice. Welcome to Venice Meets, a series of live chats from Instagram every day at 6 p.m. CET. Today, I will be talking to Paula Hardy, travel writer, editor and content strategist with Lonely Planet since 1999.
And she goes, and I meant all this as in because you've been working there for longest, not because you're older, because you're younger.
That's okay, Monica. I'm comfortable in my age.
You're younger, it's okay, don't worry. 25, 20, 26?
What is age but a number?
Exactly. It's what you feel inside. How are you, darling?
Yeah, we're very good here. Actually, it's a beautiful day here in London. So despite our own constraints and lockdown, it's a really beautiful spring here, strangely.
I was thinking today that is a year ago, just about this period, the three of us were in Cagliari.
Yeah,
No.
true.
And we were talking about over-tourism.
Yeah, no, I know. Incredible. What a year can do.
If we only would have known, I mean, I don't know, I'm still, I just wrote 6 months ago an article about over-tourism. It's like, okay, maybe I should take it off the blog.
Yeah, no, I know, but it is very interesting, isn't it? How the world can change so quickly. I mean, it's just, I don't know if you ever read that book called Black Swan, but yeah, the guy basically says, you think all swans are white, then you just see one black swan, and it's like, then your whole idea of swans completely changes. So yeah, to go from massive over-tourism in so many places, because I also cover Marrakesh as well, which, has some of the same problems as Venice, and, now it's like everything's closed. Everybody's at home. Incredible, like no travel at all.
Yeah. So, first of all, how long have you been writing for The Lonely Planet so people understand how important you are?
Well, I don't know about importance, but longevity is definitely there. I've been working for Lonely Planet over 20 years, 21 years now. So, yeah, so I started in the late 90s. So, yeah, and I've kind of worked for them continually through that period. Both as a writer, and then for 6 years I worked in-house as an editor, a commissioning editor. So I was the commissioning editor of the Italy series, as you know. And then I left again in 2010 and went back to writing. So yeah, and I guess guides that I've worked on, I generally, because I was born in Kenya, I started on a lot of East African guidebooks, and then moved up to North Africa because I lived in Libya for a while, and Morocco. And then after doing a lot of very difficult and hard destinations, and Libya was previously an Italian colony, so I met a lot of older sort of Italians and Libyans who had lived in Italy. And so the first place I researched in Italy for Lonely Planet was Sicily.
So, wow, that's a long time ago. When I asked you to, if you wanted to talk to me, it's because I thought she is the best person after a month lockdown, because obviously we started way before you in England, we've been like 8th of March, it's like, I can't take it anymore, and I thought, okay, I want to talk to Paula. Let's make a serious conversation for once. And let's have a look now. I just wanted your pulse on your, with your experience of traveling for so long. Obviously, apart from everything is closed, and we know, okay, that's obvious. Yeah. What do you think? I know it's a question that everybody's asking, what is going to happen? And we don't know what's going to happen. But in your experience, because obviously you have experience in tourism, so you know how the mind works behind all the market of tourism. How do you think, or is this, okay, I will phrase this. Do you think that there will be different approaches according to the culture and country, or are we going to go back to tourism after this?
I think, I mean, of course, people will go back to traveling. I mean, there are, you know, there's still 6,000 people on cruise ships around the world. They're still on them, you know, so, and there are travelers, you know, stuck in different countries around the world. So, I mean, for sure, we will go back. I mean, I guess that, you know, there are these two kind of tensions at the moment, because there are some people who sort of say that, you know, obviously because of the impact on so many countries' economies, everybody's just going to want to really rush back to go back to exactly how things were to before. In fact, maybe even turbocharged, because it's like quickly, you know, get some more money in, because you know, a lot of people jobs and the economy is so badly affected. And then, you know, the other school of argument is everything has to change now, because, you know, we see how these, you know, this virus traveled around the world, basically with travelers, you know, largely. A lot of them business travelers going back and forth from conferences, because it seems now from the disease that, you know, really it's these mass gatherings that are really very kind of problematic. So, you know, then you start thinking about, you know, mass events in travel. So whether that can be repeated. But I was talking with Rob, my partner, who you know today, and we were, you know, really saying, well, what would we do as kind of travelers, given that, you know, we are quite dedicated travelers and wouldn't sort of scare easily. But I think that I think things will have to change, because I think, you know, the level of discomfort that people will feel is going to be quite high for a long time. And so things I've heard in the industry are that people will be looking for destinations where either there's a high degree of trust in terms of the infrastructure. I mean, some travel agents are saying that, for example, you know, Scandinavian countries may see the return on visitors, you know, sooner than other places, because people have a high degree of trust in
space.
Yeah, and also in their infrastructure, in their governance. It's quite transparent. They're quite, you know, organized, all those sort of things. So that's, you know, that's one thing. And also, I think people may really think a lot more carefully. Certainly, let's say in the short to middle term, I think people are going to be thinking a lot more carefully about what travel they do. So I think this casual travel that we've been seeing, you know, like a lot of business trips, or maybe going somewhere for the weekend, or
just because it was cheap.
Yeah, just because it was cheap. I mean, I really have a big question mark over that kind of travel, because I think if the risk is raised for travel, like you don't know, maybe you'll get sick or you're putting yourself in a risk situation, then you're not going to want to do that unless the reward is significant. So I think people may, you know, start to think more carefully about, where do I really want to go, and maybe want to go there for a longer period of time. How? Where are you going to stay? You know, and so people may do fewer but more significant trips, in terms of significant in terms of both meaningful to them, but also, like, you know, more substantial travel experiences, you know, because otherwise there's literally no point going.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm hoping for that, in the specific for Venice, but pretty much for every city, for every area that suffer from, you know, the problem of Venice had, that there's going to be people staying for longer, you know, more investment in going back to a system where it is not based just solely on tourism, because we can see what happens when that is, you know, going back to support, as always, the local artisan, the local businesses, the local shops, you know. And I think really people should really look hard at Venice and see what actually as a study case, because what's happening in Venice is this, you know, the residents are there and they're doing everything they can to keep going, but they have very little support, you know, because of course the shops are gone, and not because of them.
Yeah, I was interested also to ask you about this, you know, because, you know, we've heard over the last, you know, so many years that, you know, essential businesses like DIY stores, you know, grocery shops have been kind of closing. And so I really wonder, you know, how does that look like now, when basically these are the only these are the businesses that people are relying on to live?
Yeah, okay, let's say that the greatest thing, I don't like the word resilience, but in this case for Venetians, it's been the trademark in this place, because after the Alta, they already were suffering. And I got to say, you know, as you know, I live outside of Venice, but I'm in contact with all my friends. What's happening is they pulled all together very nicely. There's a lot of solidarity, and I wish this were the messages that come out of the city, not empty pictures of St. Mark's Square, but that's another story. There's a lot of solidarity, so there are groups of people that are going door to door to do the deliveries for all the people, or for the people that cannot go out. Okay, a lot of the little shops that before were only maybe visited by some of the residents now have become the focus. So it's really nice because, the local farmers from Sant'Erasmo are delivering by boats the food to the local people. Raw Venice, for example, is doing the food services. They're going around, you know, usually they teach how to row in Venice to the tourists. Right. They take the food to the people that need it. They do delivery service. So there's been the community, the Venetians that are there really put together. Okay, but as you say, yeah, it's true. Like just to give you a little notice, Marisa. Hi, Marisa. Marisa broke it, as you know. She's a very famous influencer. The lady that I'm gonna talk tomorrow about the Venetian beat. She broke her phone cable, and she needed to go. And she's been going around for about 3 days looking for one, because of course in the path near our house that she was allowed to go, because you know in Italy we are allowed to go only for 200 meters unless we have a very serious and essential reason to be out. And of course in her area of kids there are no shops.
Okay, yeah.
You know what she's got to do? She's got to go with a piece of paper, asking for permission. She probably got to walk all the way to God knows where, and Piazzale Roma and so on. So it's not easy, as you say, but I can see that so far they've been pulling together a lot. There's a lot of restaurants that are starting to do home, door-to-door delivery. You know, take. So rather than to take away, because you're not even allowed to do that, they will come to take it to your house. So that's very nice, I thought. The best thing I thought was that all the bookshops have organized delivery of books to the people's home.
Wow, that is great.
Yes, and that meant, there was a big problem lately with Amazon and so on, because all the little bookstores were closing down because nobody was buying books. So we gone back to that. Because of course in Italy, I don't know in the UK, but in Italy, Amazon now doesn't deliver anything unless it is essential. Otherwise, the delivery is like 2-3 weeks or something like that. So
okay.
Yeah.
I think Marissa was just asking, are we going to go back to
Mr.
type of grand tourism? I think in some ways maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. And I mean, the Grand Tour was a kind of progressive journey that you traveled through Europe. I'm not sure about that. But in terms of kind of maybe, visiting places and, so for example, if I was going to do a trip after this pandemic, I kind of think I would think very carefully about where I wanted to go and maybe choose a place that was meaningful to me, or I wanted to really learn something about. Maybe I would spend a lot more time researching it now, because, you'd want to be sure Is it safe? What's the...
Like it used to be.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think in that regard, I think certainly in the short to medium term, we probably will see a change kind of back to that sort of travel. So yes. And also I think that, I mean, the strange thing that I was thinking about places like Venice and Marrakesh, you know, which are physically constrained, you know, because when you think of Venice, the narrow streets, same with Marrakesh, the Medina, you know, how are people going to feel going to a place like that where you have to be in a narrow environment, walking? So I really wonder in terms of kind of destination marketing for a place like Venice. I think there's a big job for a city like Venice to make people feel comfortable, that it's safe to visit there. And I think that a strange thing might be that Venice might have to regulate numbers, because it may be that in order to have tourists return in any reasonable numbers, you may have to convince them that there are less tourists. You know, you may have to insist on fewer people in order to get people to come back.
Well, in the sense, we're already there, because, you know, from this year, allegedly from now, we should have had the rule by which to come into Venice, you have to book to come in anyway. Sure. You know, an entry. But the problem was, how do you regulate that? Now, I think with all that is happening, this could be actually one way to actually do it. Because we obviously not gonna have immediately over big coaches, we're not gonna have over big cruise ships coming back. So it might be the opportunity, I doubt it will happen, but it might be the opportunity for the local authority to actually implement and see how to get it working. Since there's gonna be fewer numbers coming, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be very few numbers to start with coming back, because I know everybody wants to come to Venice, but at the same time, as you say, they're gonna wonder, is it safe or not? So yeah, that will be interesting to see. I personally, I think there's gonna be also a system by which Airbnb should be controlled. There should be a system by which the properties, you know, you only so many properties can be rented out to tourists. The rest should go to locals or to students for long term.
I wonder, is that already happening? Because I read, for example, like in Dublin, what they're seeing is that a lot of Airbnb properties have now come back onto the long-term rental market, because obviously they can't rent them to tourists. So now they say they have 4 times as many flats on the long-term rental market as they had maybe a couple of months ago. But I guess in Venice it's different because...
Well, we're still on full lockdown.
And you were kind of, you know, ahead of everybody in that it happened to you before you had time to...
Exactly, because I keep hearing this conversation on the internet. Everybody's saying, no, about Italy, but whatever they are. The curve is going down, and we're going like, yeah, right, you're 2 weeks behind us. You just started, darling, wait.
No way.
Exactly. So one question that came through today, somebody was saying to me, I'm asking, do you think that the airlines are going to change the flight prices, as in they're going to leave them down, or as soon as things go back up, they're going to put them back up again? And if so, do you think there could be a way, somebody that does something to stop it, or what? Is there an organization that can stop it or something like that?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of airlines, you know, for example, in the US, are going to get a government bailout. They've already applied for support. And I believe in Italy, they've said that they will support Alitalia, whatever the cost.
They've been supporting Alitalia since he was born. So that doesn't, don't rely on that.
But I do think, I mean, I know that, for example, EasyJet had ordered, I think, 24 planes from Airbus that they're now not going to take. I mean, they want to drop that deal. So I I don't say, I mean, and EasyJet's, the founder, Stelios, you know, he sort of said that he sees that they might kind of get things back online, but maybe one plane, one route at a time, you know, so it's going to be very slow and gradual. And I don't know if in the beginning there might be rules like they can't fill the plane.
Of course.
You know, like maybe you can't sit next to each other. Maybe you have to have one seat empty beside you or something like that. I don't know.
Can you imagine like 100-seater, you go out with about 30 people? Oh my God, the price is going to go rocket.
Well, I guess, well, then but I also think, you know, the other side of that equation is if people can't afford to travel,
yes,
you know, a lot of people have had their income impacted and can't afford to travel. So, you know, it's going to be a difficult conundrum for airlines, because if you just put the prices up massively, then people would just be like, well, I can't afford that, I'm not going to travel. So I think I think prices will rise, but I think maybe not mass, you know, astronomically, but I think that what may happen is that there will be fewer services.
Traveling will be possible for ones only, likely age 45 to 60, not older, for a free vacation is going to be the one. To me, it feels like we're going to go back like in the 70s, 80s, where you did one trip of a lifetime abroad and you just traveled, you know, within your nation, one trip of a lifetime once a year. You took all your money away. The plane costed a lot of money, the accommodation much less. And you did, and when you went, as you were saying, you did a lot of research. And when you went, you made sure to stay there long enough to see everything that you researched. So I think we're going to go back 70s, 80s, in my opinion. I think. But it's not so bad.
I mean, I think the only thing I would say to that is that, I mean, is that younger people are less affected by this disease. I know, you know, younger people have died, but, you know, statistically speaking, they are a lot less at risk than people.
They take you around, though. That's the problem. So it's not a question whether they get infected, they're going to get sick. It's a question whether they're going to spread it.
Sure, I guess so. But I suppose if they lift the lockdown, I don't know what those people are going to think. I mean, you know, young people are young people. And so, you know, will they stay at home or will they still travel? I mean, you know, because without a kind of state control or government advice, you know, people may just sort of think, well, I'm okay, it won't affect me so much. I'll be okay traveling. So, I mean, I certainly think that the older group, maybe over 65 or over, you know, or over 60, will be really cautious.
And let's talk about cruise ship. I think it was the hammer point. I got to say, I'm so sorry for people that go on cruise ships, but personally, I'm happy. I just sincerely hope we go back to a system of cruise ships where there are smaller cruise ships stopping for longer again. I think longer, it's actually the answer for a lot of things, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, I think, I mean, for me, I think one of the problems of the cruise ships is their size now. I mean, and I don't know how that problem is going to go away very quickly, because, you know, people have spent millions, billions building these giant floating cities, and they're not going to just disappear.
And the ports welcoming them.
So those boats exist. So what do you do with those boats? But I do think, I mean, there was a Harris poll in the US that basically asked people, you know, how long would it take you to go back to doing normal sort of activity, you know, when the lockdown is lifted. So this was to a US audience, and people said that, well, you know, let's say the lockdown was lifted tomorrow, it might take me about a month to go back to going to a restaurant, or till I felt safe going to a restaurant. you know, it might take me 2 or 3 months before I considered going to a cinema or a place like where there's a bigger group of people. You know, then they said it might take me about 6 to 8 months before I think about flying again somewhere. And for cruise ships, people said it would take them maybe over a year, or possibly they will never go on a cruise ship again. So I really wonder, whether the cruise ships,
Yeah.
who is going to, I don't know. Who is going to
How many
go?
countries are there in the world?
That's a good point. I should know that. But I mean, I certainly know.
I wasn't testing you. I was just really wondering.
I mean, I certainly think that, I mean, one thing that was quite distressing before, you know, this pandemic is that cruise ships was one of the biggest growing sectors of the travel industry.
For me, too fast. It just happened way too fast. It escalated in, 10 years, even less than 10 years. It just went crazy. I think it was really out of control.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them even I was in Sydney just before the lockdown happened here. And I mean, of course, you know, Sydney is a huge city with a big bay and port, so very different from Venice. But they had cruise ships docking there almost every day. And same sort of thing, that like we went to the Museum of Modern Art, which is just set behind where the cruise ships dock. And the thing is, the ship is bigger than the Modern Art Museum. And the Modern Art Museum has a restaurant on the top terrace that's an open air restaurant. And presumably in the past, you had a beautiful view of the Opera House and the bay. But now, because a cruise ship's parked there all the time, you can't see anything. And not only that, they keep their engine running, and you could basically see the fumes from the engine just floating all over the restaurant.
It's not just that, it's also the radiation, the stuff, because you know when they're docking, they have to keep the sonar on. So there's all the roads and stuff. So I keep hearing all of this, you know, in Venice we got this major problem. All the people that live near the actual port, they complain every single day of the pollution, of the problem that they have with their health. So, you know, because we keep them on all the time. So, you know, it's terrible, as, you know, I don't even want to think about it. I'm just, what bugged me is, like at the beginning you said that there are still 6,000 people on cruise ship. My question is, this has been going on for 2 months nearly now. How come they're on cruise ships? They shouldn't even be boarded.
Well, I think they were possibly boarded. I think they were possibly boarded before, and you know that maybe they can't find a port to take them because you know it's a big problem. You know, and I do think this is also an interesting thing that you know Venice as a city is going to have to grapple with, because let's say, you know, there are less people in Venice for holiday, but if the cruise ships start returning, I mean, how happy are people going to be in Venice if you know that cruise ships are going to be docking there and people are going to be getting on and off cruise ships, and you don't know where the people on the cruise ship are coming from or where they've just been or whatever. I mean, all these questions are going to be, you know, questions that people are thinking about when they go to places.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we are addressing, well, not us, but the local authorities not addressing them, because with Romena, we've queried the local tourist counselor, and we asked them what kind, you know, what message are you, you know, going to give it to the people? Oh, the reply was it was too early to give any messages. And the message that came out from the mayor is, don't worry, our hospital is safe.
Right.
Okay, so so I'm a bit concerned, but we don't know what's going to happen, so I don't know. But I know that the Venetians and everybody involved, even the people involved in tourism, and that goes from the hotels, restaurants, shops, everybody involved in tourism, is clearly sending a message that we totally got it, that this is not, we can't carry on as it was. It's so obvious, but somehow, somewhere, the message stops and is not getting where it's supposed to go. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm curious because I do think this is a real opportunity, for Venice, and I think it's a kind of, it's a massive collective pause, which gives people an opportunity to talk about different ideas or different futures, for their destinations.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the interesting thing is how do those messages go from, citizens up to a kind of government level, out to a kind of marketing, in terms of kind of talking to the world about your city and what it's like after this?
Well, the problem in Venice at the moment is that, to be honest with you, I can see, this is a city that doesn't even have a press office. And that tells you everything, I think. Marisa says new ideas versus old money. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. The problem is that even right now on social media, I keep seeing messages written in Italian addressed to the locals, okay, as in what's being done daily, and that's fine. We need that because you need to tell the local people what's going on, but totally a lack of communication towards the rest of the world. When instead, cities like Treviso, and it's only
15 minutes away, 20 minutes away.
And they keep telling people, look, we know we're not, but we will be here when you come back. And they're promoting a lot of the art in the museum and so on. I think in Venice right now we have a huge problem in communication, a total lack of.
But could someone do, let's say a website? I mean, a website is fairly easy to set up that maybe local people could contribute to.
Well, we talk about amongst ourselves, as bloggers and stuff. The problem is that the moment we start doing something like this, and we'll get it going, and it will be coming very good, and everything goes, no, we can do that. The city will come and take it and steal it and make it his and ruin it, because that's what happens every single time something good starts in Venice.
How could they take it though?
Because they take the idea from you. Because that's the way it is. We'll talk about this privately, Paula.
Okay, sorry. No, but I think it's I mean, I'm looking at, all, lots of different museums in different cities have done, they've opened their collections maybe. And I know there are some things in Venice.
The museums of Venice have done a great job. Oh my God, they're amazing. But that's the problem. They done it as museums, as themselves. Yeah. It wasn't. It's not a combination of the old system working all together. So the museum does a little bit, and then everybody does his own little bit. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And that's always it is. West Venice, so it is. What I wanted to know, Bo, is at what point are you with a lockdown in the UK? Because it's so confusing. I get messages here. Somebody tells me something, somebody tells me something else. So what actually is happening? Are you as strict as we are now, or you still a bit behind?
No, I think we are nowhere near as strict as you. I mean, we're still allowed to, the official advice is that we can go out for one walk a day, or like a form of exercise, walk, jog, bike ride. You can go out for.
You just disappeared. Where are you gone?
Oh, I don't know.
You're gone all black. Have you turned the camera by mistake?
I don't know.
Yes, you turned the camera.
Oh, here
just
we go.
press underneath.
There we
go. But where's she gone? Yeah, sorry, you were saying. Sorry, you were saying.
So we're allowed to go out for one form of exercise a day. You can go out for essentials like shopping. You shouldn't, but a lot of it is advice.
That's what I'm saying. The magic word, advice. Yeah. You're not on a rule like we are, that if we go out and we are caught doing what we shouldn't be doing, we get a huge fine, and
they've given police some more powers this weekend, you know, in terms of like if people go they've closed car parks of parks, and they have got police out in sort of parks and things, and they do have the power to fine you or tell you to go home. But the thing is like where I live, which is a really kind of residential neighborhood, so that, you know, it's almost quieter in central London because not that many people live there. So, but out here, it's basically all residential. And, you know, when you go down just for a walk down to the small, it's like High Street, oh my God, there's so many people. Like, it's crazy. And I mean, like, there's one shop that is still open that is serving takeaway coffee. And it's like, really, how does that qualify as essential? So I think that we're a lot more lackadaisical than Italy.
Do you think it's going to get to a point where we're going to have to get stricter, or is there going to always be the same problem of rights, civil rights? Because that's what's bugging me a lot in these days. No, so in Italy, I haven't heard this much. So we actually kind of, strangely for Italians, we actually took to the law and said, okay, we'll do it. But you know how we are generally, okay?
Yeah.
But from America and from Britain and even from other countries, I keep hearing this, say, it's my right to go out. It bugs me a lot.
Yes, I think I agree. It is this kind of, I mean, I'm not sure we're quite the same as America. I mean, in America, it really is a kind of very extreme individualism, like nobody can tell me what to do. I think, I don't know, I mean, my criticism of my own culture and government are that, you know, English people are quite, I think, careless, like in terms of like not caring. So I think there's a calculation by the British government that, you know, we shouldn't lock things down too much. Okay, you know, some people may die, but, you know, I really think the British are quite like this, you know. I mean, even at the kind of daily kind of press conferences, you know, they talk in a very pragmatic way about things. And in some ways, it's quite uncaring. I mean, you know, there was a story on the news the other night of a nurse in one of the hospitals who's worked in a hospital for 20 years. And he's like maybe a man in his early 50s or something. And he called the hospital 4 times. He got COVID-19 because obviously he's on the wards. He called 4 times. They had an ambulance. He kept being told to just refer to the website. An ambulance came out to see him and told him his symptoms weren't bad enough, and he died. And he's a nurse. I mean, it's like, how can you treat the nurses like this? So wow. I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know. I think one of the problems in Britain is that, you know, we don't maybe have, you know, some of the equipment and the beds and the things like that. So, you know, we kind of push this problem out into the community, because if you actually had to deal with it in the hospitals, then it would be obvious that you didn't have. That's what I think. But I mean,
that's very interesting to hear this, because I keep getting, you know, because of my connection with Britain and stuff, I get all the Italians writing to me, says every time something comes out in England, I get the article. Did you see that happen? Did you see what they're doing? Did you see how they're handling? Yeah. And I go, yeah, okay, that's, you know, hold on. It's very interesting. I didn't actually get this part. Yes. Of course, because I've been cutting so much on the NHS in the last 10, 15
I mean,
years.
I think that, you know, one of the things they said is that Germany has 29 beds per 1,000 people. the highest in Europe. I think Italy, the average in Europe, which I think is Italy has as well, is about 7 beds per 1,000 people. And I think the UK has like 5 per 1,000 people. And I think America has 3 per 1,000 people.
Well, I know that I'm just referring what the government was saying, but the reason why they went on a lockdown and they went straight pretty soon and so harsh, and I think they did it, one, because they know Italians, unless you tell them they got to do it by law and they get fined, they'll never how to control themselves. So that's one reason they had to. But also because they realize that up to a certain number, they will cope with the hospital beds. And they will, yes, people will die, but they will be able to do it in a hospital. Okay? Yeah. Over a certain number of people, the system would have collapsed. Yeah. Okay? That is hard for us to get it because, of course, but that's the way it is. So in a way, I'm glad that we did what we did, because I don't know if we are on the way down. Then I don't know for sure.
No, it looks like you are. I mean, on all the kind of, the projections, Italy's thing goes up and you're like halfway down the other side.
Our biggest concern is not as much how we coping, because we did cope. Yes, people died. We know it was going to happen. I'm not sure they were expecting those numbers, but I think they were. So, okay. What I'm very worried is that we are still, we're going to be on lockdown at least until the 3rd of May. They already told us. Hey, sweetie. But I'm worried that the other countries will go out of lockdown too soon and they will start all over again.
Well, I mean, I agree. It's interesting. I listened to a context travel talk on Venice and sort of the pandemics in history, and I mean, obviously there was the major one, the Black Death, which just so phenomenal. Like 60% of people in Venice died. Can you imagine if 60% of people in a city died? It's unimaginable, basically. But what it said, and I mean, there are 4, aren't they, major pandemics that have kind of affected Venice. It's like all of them actually go on for quite a long time. They do come in waves. But I think that, there are some very interesting kind of developments they're looking at now in terms of getting a kind of, vaccine. One of them is strangely the tuberculosis vaccine, the BCG. They're testing that. So, I mean, I do think there probably will be a vaccine next year sometime. But then, how countries all handle this. They're out of lockdown. They're in lockdown. Can you move from this country to that country?
Sweden, I was reading today, is refusing to go on a lockdown.
Where? Sorry?
Sweden. I was reading today. I think it was Sweden. Somebody sent me a link. But they're not going to go on lockdown at all. And I replied to my friend, well, yeah, obviously, they don't need to. They don't have high numbers of people, and they got loads of money. So they probably got 1 respirator per person. So they don't have to worry.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I know Sweden is this incredible outlier. Or is it the fact that, it is like these people who refuse to vaccinate their children? If everybody else vaccinates their children, if you don't vaccinate your children, it doesn't matter. Your child is safe because everybody else is vaccinated. So, the problem is if too many people start doing it. So let's say if Sweden doesn't go into lockdown, but Denmark and Norway and everybody around them is controlling the situation, then I suppose Sweden, in theory, won't be too badly impacted because the control is around them.
My God. But I still, somebody was saying to me earlier on the phone, she says, I'm not even depressed. She said, my friend says, I'm just living out of this world. I can't. And it's true. Between the confinement indoors, the conversation, reading the things, it's like living in a film right now.
Yeah.
A really bad one.
Where do you think, interesting question, Monica, where would you travel after you come out of this?
So, my point is, I still got my birthday voucher from last year so I still got voucher that I can travel. It's not much money, but to be honest with you, I think I'll stick to Italy for now.
Yeah.
Because I think right now, not because I don't want to go around the world. I got my passport finally. I was ready to go everywhere, finally. But mainly because I think this time, Italy will need a lot of support. So if I can give, even if it's not too far away, but I think I need to, apart from the fact with all these conversations, I've got so many people need to go and visit in Italy now because I need to talk to Italy market.
Also, that's another interesting thing that's coming up, is that a lot of people may feel from a patriotic point of view to support local communities and things like that. So,
and I do think Italy, in a way, because see, England doesn't live from tourism. Okay, so your lockdown is not our lockdown. Okay,
yeah.
So I think right now, Italy, we need to go back on track as soon as possible, within safety, of course. I'm not saying we should go too soon. It needs to be done properly. But I think if we can support our local economy, it needs to be done, because that will allow us then to go and travel abroad. I don't know. That's nice to know. I'll be going to Italy when I'm allowed. Yes, of course. we all want people to come over. I mean, we'll be waiting for all of you. I just think what's going to happen, maybe even people coming from abroad will start visit other parts of Italy that before weren't visited, very unknown, because there are, there are not going to be too many people. So that would be nice, because maybe, we can help other regions. So.
And do you think that other Italians will come to Venice?
Yes, because there's so many images of an empty Venice that they all want to see them. They want to see the dolphins that we don't have, of course.
the imaginary dolphins.
Yeah,
but I heard the other day you have flamingos.
Oh, we always have flamingos every year.
Really?
And the dolphins too, yeah, of course, in the lagoon. They've always been flamingos every year, and the dolphins as well are always been in the lagoon. The difference is now the flamingos or the dolphins are around the canals of Venice. That's something different.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have a lot of the wildlife, like all the ducks, the swans and stuff. Well, the swans we always had in Burano anyway, but the ducks has taken up places in all the little, in the canals are back, because of course there is no movement, so it's very safe for them. But,
yeah, no, it does look kind of incredible. It is a sort of incredible view when you see these pictures of Venice, like particularly the canals.
Oh my God.
Is
blue, the colors.
And not only that, just this, without so much traffic on them and also I think the silence is a very, I mean, that was one thing, when I've done trips on the lagoon before, that always struck me as one of the most amazing sensations was the sound. I mean, because actually Venice is quite a noisy city because of all the stone, so even people walking, there's always this kind of click clack sort of noise.
Well, you know what, just before, it was very interesting, way before the lockdown, we're talking about during carnival time. So there were a lot of people, but there weren't very many, and everybody was pointing out, it really is not a very busy carnival, because you cannot hear so many trolleys going around.
Okay.
They want to know, where would you go on holiday? Or where will you go on holiday? Because it's not where would, but where will you? Because I know you will go straight away.
I don't know. I suppose I would go to places that I would probably go to Venice or Marrakesh, because they're places that I spend a lot of time. And I suppose similar to you, there are, people there that I know. And I mean, this is one of the things that I think this kind of idea of meaningful travel is, they would be people that I'd want to support first. And I guess, maybe strangely, although I'm based in London, my connections actually with the UK are not that deep because I didn't really grow up here. So, So it would probably, yeah, maybe be Venice or Marrakesh.
So I don't know if you've done it, I usually ask my guests to have something handmade. Did you remember? Oh, you
I did. My earrings.
Okay, where are they from?
They are actually from Verona.
Okay. Handmade by, what's the name of the artisan?
The name of the artisan is Valentina. I mean, their shop is called Ethne in Verona, but just so you can see them better.
Yep.
But they are.
Ooh, beautiful.
She collects some things. So it's a jade button.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously this is a bit of coral, Italian coral. So that's what she does, is she mixes kind of vintage things that she finds, like from her travels, you know. So the jade buttons are from China, and then she adds to them with her own design. So
very nice. So I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So have you done your sign or not? Or like everybody, have you struggled? Because everybody goes, how do I do it on reverse?
Oh no, I didn't. I thought I didn't understand the sign thing.
Okay,
so no,
don't worry. For the social media, I'll put you on the. Where can people find you?
Where can people find me? Where can people find me? In Venice or Marrakesh most of the time. I mean, I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram most probably. So my Instagram account is probably where people can find me.
Okay. So how's Rob doing? Is he going crazy?
No, he's actually he's okay. I mean, he's you know, to be honest, our day-to-day sort of life in terms of working, and you know, you can always write. That's the thing about being a writer.
That's what I keep saying to everybody. I see everybody in a panic. I said, guys, social media managers, bloggers, writers, everybody involved with the internet. We've been doing this for years. We used to stay indoors. So why are you complaining?
So that's not so different, but I suppose it is. I mean, I suppose the most difficult thing is psychologically thinking, well, you may not be able to travel for a year. I mean, it's not clear yet. I mean, you know, okay, people are saying June, but, you know, I really don't think before, you know, the end of the year. September, if we're lucky. Otherwise, I think really next year.
Yes, I totally agree.
That seems, you know, wow, really?
Yeah. I just, look, we were thinking today, just a photo of having to go around shopping in June, July, August in Italy with 45 degrees, a mask and gloves.
Wow, yeah.
I think I'm going to do a lot of home delivering, or I'm getting my son to do it. There's no way. I'm thinking doing my tours. How can I go around with a mask and, you know,
yes, no, that would be interesting.
Cooking lesson. How can I get people to stay 1 meter apart with masks and gloves? It's just undoable. It literally is undoable, you know?
Yeah, I suppose I mean, this is the interesting thing. People are going to have to become very inventive about how they do things, like how they implement social distancing. Like, I'm wondering about restaurants. Will restaurants have to have their tables certain distance apart?
Separated, you know, I saw a program of somebody that was in Korea. Yeah, it was in Korea. And the restaurants now, you have to stay one person, then it's divided by some plastic thingy. You have another person and another person.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, one thing I read that I thought was sort of interesting about, you know, business travel, conference travel, and about this. I mean, one of the things that they were saying is that a lot of the spread of the virus was through business travelers.
Not your fault, guys.
Huh?
That's on you guys.
No, I don't mean like that business travel. I mean like big conferences, or like, you know, like these, you know, like in Barcelona, this big kind of technology fair or whatever. That it's, I mean, was one town in Germany that's had the highest level of cases of anywhere, you know, in terms of per population. and it's because they had a kind of beer festival, and you know, it's this kind of event where people are in a extended period of time, close contact with people. They sort of said they didn't find a lot of evidence of people getting it in restaurants and things like that. So I think that will be interesting as well, if as more information kind of comes out, you know, sort of where exactly are problematic places to be, you know. I mean, maybe it won't be restaurants. I hope it's not restaurants, because that is one thing I really miss. I love restaurants.
I know. Don't tell me, but I got to cook now. Oh, gee. I got to cook all the time now.
And then you dream of the days you went to restaurants.
I know. My job was a restaurant. I was like, I can't do reviews now. Anyway, Paula, I got to cut you now because, unfortunately, Instagram only allows 1 hour. Listen, it was lovely talking to you. I can't believe it's a year and we were in the middle of a beautiful park walking, and look at us now. Never mind. Never mind. Say hi to Rob for me, and I hope to speak to you again soon. Keep safe, please. Do not go out. Follow the Italian rule. It's easier. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Love to you, Monica. You stay safe too.
Thanks. Ciao, cara. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.